Hi everybody, I'm Dan.
I'm Olga.
And today we are talking about The Dragon Prince Season 1, Netflix's new animated series from the head writer of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We are big fans of Avatar, so we tried this out.
Yes.
And what did we think?
I loved it. I thought it was great. It reminded me of my childhood. It was like pure and nice, but still had that edge of kind of more adult humor. Like, I'm smart.
And adult topics.
Yeah. It still had that little bit of darkness to it. It was just overall so enjoyable.
Yeah. It was just oozing with charm, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's funny because you say the childhood thing, but like I watched Avatar in college for the first time. So it reminded me of my college days.
Your youth.
But yeah, no, I just think it did what it needed to do, which was prove to me that this is not just a child show, it is a family show. It has something for both audiences. And I mean, I like that both as someone who wants to participate in it and watch it myself, but also this is the kind of thing that I want kids to be able to have too, to grow up with, because these are the kinds of shows that like actually make their brain think.
Yeah.
And I think that they did a phenomenal job of setting up these characters, of setting up this world. There are some issues with it, to be sure, and it's not perfect.
Right.
But, I mean, neither was the beginning of Avatar, in my opinion.
Right. People kind of look at Avatar, in my opinion, with rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
I think I've been in that camp, too, where I've just, but certain things I'm like, oh, yeah, that wasn't perfect. So, yeah, this isn't a perfect show, and that's not what I was looking for out of it. The thing is that now it's kind of for a new generation. It hits those of us who have seen Avatar, who have seen Korra, and love that universe. And want something more, but different. Yeah. But it's bringing in a new audience to this kind of style of show. I would say that, I've been watching Voltron. I kind of binged it and caught up on it. And the whole thing there was advertised to me as also from someone who worked on Avatar.
Yeah.
And for me, while I can see why people would like it, it wasn't really super what I wanted to get out of it. Yeah. And to me, this is a lot closer to Avatar.
The thing is, so I watched the first, hour premiere, hour and a half, whatever it is. I watched the beginning of Voltron, and that is did not work for me. That didn't pass the test of it felt like I was watching a show for kids.
It was I
mean, not to say that I'm sure it evolves.
It definitely gets more adult, arguably. I would say it gets more adult than what Dragon Prince took us to. Yeah. But it kind of had that weird extreme where it's a little bit too goofy with all of a sudden some serious heavy emotion later on. Which is good, versus this, which I feel like had its tone, set its tone, and matched it throughout the 9 episodes.
The other thing is, adult storytelling doesn't just mean they're murdering people and they're doing really dark things. I think the problem I had with Voltron was not just that it was kitty and goofy, it was that I didn't feel like it was well written. Again, I'm just talking about the beginning.
You are.
Whereas my point being is that this, I wouldn't say that Dragon Prince was dark, but what it was immediately these are real characters that feel like people. It's not I don't the beginning of Voltron was 80% plot, 20% character.
There's the math.
I was just 10% action, 10%. It was so plot heavy, whereas this felt character heavy from the beginning.
Yeah. Character driven with a good story backbone behind it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the animation style, because I know it's been a little bit divisive.
Yeah.
So they're using more computer animation in this one, combined with some drawing, and basically what they're doing is minimizing the frame rate, even though they could be making it silky smooth, trying to replicate 2D animation, which is a little bit more choppy.
Right.
And some people are not loving that.
Yeah.
And I think we would be somewhat included in that. But the thing is, I think the art style is fantastic.
Right.
And once you're watching a few episodes, it kind of fades away.
That's exactly it. That's what I was going to say. I would say it was pretty jarring in the first episode. Yeah. But even then, the first episode and the second one, I would say that even though it was still jarring then, as soon as there's really kind of action heavy stuff going on, it seems like they increase that frame rate a little bit. Like it gets smoother.
It feels like it flows more when there's speed involved, and I don't know if they're messing with it. I mean, in some ways that's like kind of a cool idea where it's like, oh, we're doing something intense, so we're gonna make it more smooth.
Right.
But in other ways, it's like, well, then the minor movements feel like extra wonky.
But then again, once I think I only noticed it episodes 1 and 2, and then 3 through 9, I was like, this is the show. This is the animation, and again, the art is just so beautiful, and I love the character design.
I love the design of the elves, especially.
Oh, they're so cool.
Because, I mean, we've seen so many elves and things. These, I feel like, I'm not saying they're like revolutionary.
Right. They still have the pointy ears.
But they stand out, and they have a very likable design. I think the creatures all are, very Avatar-esque, but also very unique and colorful.
Right. And, I think it's a nice take on dragons. Like, they're not as cutesy or as sleek and lizard-like necessarily as they could be. They seem to have more detail work from what we've seen.
The baby's pretty cutesy.
All right, that's fair. But I just mean in terms of like additional pieces to them, kind of the way they're fleshed out. But the baby is super cute. Oh my god,
super cute.
Super cute.
What did you think of this world? So we're talking about how this is like, oh, dragons and elves, and like this is clearly a world that's been played in quite a bit, and I think that is something that it struggles with versus Avatar, where Avatar, I think one of the strongest points off the bat before you really fall in love with the characters is that the world felt very unique and smart, and that they were fleshing something out that you'd never seen before. How much of a downgrade do you feel this is?
I don't think it's a downgrade. Like, that's the thing. We keep bringing it up and talking about it in the context of Avatar, but I'm okay with it trying to do something different and play by its own rules, I guess. Like, in saying, oh, the dragons look slightly different to me than normal medieval fantasy. Well, it's still a medieval fantasy magic kind of show, and I'm okay with it being in that world/genre because I like that genre. Whereas to me, Avatar was its own kind of my first experience with that kind of idea, especially with for me, it was a real introduction into anime inspired stuff. I wasn't really someone who grew up with like Sailor Moon or
Dragon Ball Z, that kind of thing.
Right, I didn't really watch it, so for me that piqued my interest into that more. Whereas this, I'm like, okay, this is familiar to me. I kind of
Well, I think the thing is, it could have been more of a worry point than I think it became, because they put their own mark on it very quickly, and sort of Avatar spins with having like the different elements and all that stuff and the sources of power. And we got the book 1 moon right off the bat, and it's like things like that could be like roll your eyes, or they could be, which is for me is like, yes,
it was. That's how it was for me too. Where I'm like, okay, if we're bringing in the best parts or some of the best parts while keeping the stuff that I loved from that show, which is character work. They did really good character work in 9 episodes.
And the other thing is, I think that, by being in this more like medieval fantasy setting, it could have been like, oh, now the world feels boring or whatever. But I still feel like they put enough of their own spin on it that's like, I'm excited for them to go to this tribe versus, I don't know if they're tribe, I forget what they call them exactly. Like the sun versus the moon versus so I'm excited to see what those different pockets look like.
For me, it wasn't a potential worry point even. It was like, okay, let's see what they do with it.
Well, and the other thing is that, I mean, since like my major touch point right now or in the last couple of years has been Game of Thrones, simply by not being as dreary and terrible of a world, yes, things are tough in that world, but like happy people with bright colors, sign me up.
It's got jokes and they're not all about being a drunk.
Well, actually, let's talk about the humor a little bit. What do you think? Do you think it hit? Do you think it was a little too kiddie?
I think there were times where I was worried that it was veering to kiddie.
Yeah.
But then it pulled it back, and it was just, I think I said it already, but it was just joyful.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It was a little silly, but it was silly in the right way. Like, where Rayla is talking with them about a snowman, but she calls it a snow elf. And then they find the snowman, and she takes out its nose, breaks the carrot in half, puts it, makes horns, and goes, snow elf, and then runs away. I laughed so hard, and that's goofy. That's silly.
Totally goofy.
But it just kind of warms me up.
I think that was great, and I think they did a good amount of humor where they were sort of making fun of their own humor at times too. Like they'd make like the kitty joke, and then someone would be like, "Yes, sir." I think the other thing, I think the people that were in some ways the most were the brother and sister. As far as the comedy goes, but it like went into this interesting zone where like they were making fun of each other, and it's so like even if they weren't necessarily funny, it like felt real.
It felt like it still kind of endears you to them, even if you don't like what they're doing. Because you're like, it's a brother-sister relationship. We all know that trope or have experienced it in life. So even then, even though for me their humor was probably the most like
iffy.
Slightly off sometimes. I'm like, I'm okay with it. There's still an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there was very few things that I would say were groan-inducing, and every episode had at least one thing that I actually thought was funny.
Yeah.
And it's not like they were going snip, snip, quip, quip, quip.
Right.
So I think it worked.
Yeah. It wasn't too in its own head either. So it just felt well balanced.
Actually, that reminds me, what do you think about the fact that they were, and I don't think Avatar did this unless I'm forgetting, that they made references to pop culture? Like winking references.
Other than Winter is Coming.
They had Say Hello to My Little Friend.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was like one other, those are the two that really stuck out to me, but I think there was a couple other ones too that I'm just forgetting now.
I'm fine with it. I mean, again, kids, depending on what age they're watching it. For me, my real introductions to pop culture-y sayings and references was through cartoons that were referencing that out of world. So I'm okay with it. To me, it just kind of comes with the territory of being towards a younger audience, but wanting to be referential, which is just a thing. Yeah. No, I don't, I think they straddled the line there well. Yeah. All right, so we're going to go through some of the characters and go in a little bit more in depth with them. So let's talk about Rayla, because I have her first because to me, she's the main character. She's, I don't know if she is the main character. But to me, she's the main character. But I really like her. She is phenomenal. I mean, she's the center of the show and the heart of the show to me. And it's, I think the thing is, I think they did the best work with her. She was the most three-dimensional character who was capable, charismatic, funny, like you said with the elf thing. She had to deal with prejudice, and she struggled significantly, and she was making tough choices with lying and sacrifice. Yeah. She was willing to sacrifice her hand and the growth. Yeah. And her relationship and growing of trust, like the way she connected with others, like her growth felt genuine. And I would say, even though I'm like, oh no, it was only 9 episodes, I feel like her growth overall is well paced. Yeah. In her character. Well, the thing is, and when you only have 9 episodes, I think the most important thing is that you show multiple facets of the person. Like, I don't know that I would necessarily say she had like a big arc. Right. I mean, her arc was mostly in the first like 3 episodes when she went from wanting to, prove, help her people to, I'm going to defy them. But I think what it really was about is as time went on, we just learned more and more, and they set up more of her ongoing arc as she's like, I always fail when it counts. We have the little side things like the fear of water, which I think worked well both comedically, but also with fleshing her out as a human, especially when she's so badass and everything. The stuff with her parents, like that's a nice touch of, I'm looking forward to seeing that in the future. And again, her choices and being more than just the capable warrior. Yeah. Really. No, I think she's a phenomenal character. And I love her character design. Yeah, I love her design too. She's very likable, very charming. I have like almost no issues with her. I think they did a great job. I agree. Do you have any issue with the fact that she's a female and incapable of like finishing the job as a warrior? I think that I'm okay with that because they showed other elves, moon elves that were it was a mixed group of male and female assassins, and the leader, who's a guy, ended up living, but I'm kind of okay with like, clearly there are female moon elf assassins, and they just, I don't really have a problem with it.
I mean, coming from the creators of Avatar, I extra don't have a problem with it because obviously Aang, his whole thing was he didn't want to kill either.
Right.
So, and, you know, it's one of those weird things where it's like, oh, you're weak, but also, like, morally, you're right.
Well, also, it's the whole thing of her leader saying in the pilot, like, this reminded me, your inability to kill the scout shows me you're just a child. Like, you're not ready for this. So it's this idea of this childlike innocence, I would say in his mind, like, naivete. Yeah. Of, you know, you can't go through with it. But we're on her side. We don't want her to go through with it. Yeah. So I'm okay with this.
Yeah. All right, so let's move to Callum. Who I guess is the main character.
So for those who didn't realize, same voice actor as Sokka.
Great job.
I
think Callum is very likable. I think that I think the problem with him is that I feel like he was only just getting started.
Yeah, I would say that he's the one where I felt the most like, because they're focusing or feel like they can more easily focus on Rayla, he falls a little bit to the wayside. And his whole exploration of his mage abilities, like, obviously there's more to come with that. Yeah. But they started it off in a good way. And the thing is, if he got too powerful too quickly, that wouldn't have felt right either.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think the reason I think that it feels a little bit... so in general, it's hard to talk about this because I am not used to a 9-episode season of any...
That's so weird. 9 episodes.
Well, I guess I shouldn't say of anything, but of a half-hour show.
Yeah.
It's just... especially something like this, which screams epic, right? And I wouldn't want them to have rushed things more than they did. At the same time, he ends the season giving up the magic ball, which is a big deal. But to me, that's not his arc. That is the beginning of his arc.
Right. It's like half. It felt like a mid-season finale.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing is like, oh, that's a big moment that he's willing to do that. But I also don't know that I also wouldn't have. He would have done it at any point in the season. Like, he was always heroic, you know? But at the same time, I think, you know, it is worth talking about the fact that he did run away at the beginning. I do like that he isn't very capable. Like, he failed at everything until the magic happened.
They show him being, like, even emphasizing, well, art, that's something that's more my speed. Yeah. And frankly, that's something that's heavily associated with female characteristics of men are good at fighting and women are good at the artistry and being in touch with your emotions and more associated, I would say, in fantasy with magic.
So, no, definitely. He is the hands-off one. Right. And Rayla is the one who gets in there and dirties things up a little.
Right. But he still is, you know, frustrated with himself for not being able to carry things out. And that is also part of his journey of feeling like he's incapable, feeling like he's never been good at anything is disappointing. I think there are hints that his mother was also like a warrior and was a general in her own right. Yeah. And so maybe part of it is even like trying to live up to that a bit. And, you know, I would say that the real flaw with Callum isn't actually with Callum. It's that why is his backstory in relation to the king and to Ezran and to that family? Like, why are they keeping it such a mystery?
Amorphous thing? Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, I guess it's because they wanted to be able to reveal who's his father later down the line or whatever. Yeah. I do like how we have this thing with him and his stepfather and how they sort of struggle together. And I think that this was like their version of, oh, Jon Snow's a bastard. Right. You know, like this is their like, oh, we're not going to say that, but like, how can we have him be a prince but still be the underdog and still be like different and made fun of and stuff. And I do like that we are able that way to get the half-brothers and have different races involved.
Right.
And do you want to talk a little bit about Ezran?
Yeah, Ezran is cute.
Yeah. I think he's definitely the one who gets the least to do until, like, the last 2 episodes.
Right. He's, like, precocious, but, I mean, he has the least to do, but they start him off of showing how he's very capable and he's smart and quick on his feet, and he, like, likes to do puzzles,
Yeah.
and he has his own little sidekick with Bait, and their relationship is
Bait's cute.
really cute. Yeah, who would have thought that a toad would be like, especially a weird like lizard toad? I was like, this isn't a cute creature, and by the end, I'm like, he's so cute. But yeah, with the stones stuff and the pilot, it kind of. I would say that the middle piece is where he doesn't have too much to do.
By to do, I mean development. Like, we don't get much of who he is as a person until I'd say like near the end, where it's like he didn't have any friends and he's weird. The animal ability gives him something extra to do and strengthens his connection to both the dragon and to Bait.
Right.
I think that's cute, and there's lots to go forward with there. And I did like that Callum was sort of putting it like there was some actual brotherly disputes, I guess is the word, in near the end there.
I will say that bringing up the end of like the animal abilities and him like, talking about his feelings and feeling othered by other kids, for me that was a little bit too much telling, not showing, and that kind of frustrated me. Where I was a little bit, this feels like out of left field. Whereas before it's like, oh, he has a connection to Bait, but that's kind of it, because like a boy and his dog could have that same connection trope, so I was a little bit underwhelmed.
We didn't get much of him as a character before they went on their mission, so that kind of I think is part of the problem. But yeah, so to me he's the weak link of the three, but that doesn't mean that he's not enjoyable to watch.
He's still good and cute, and I still want to see more, and especially like he's gonna have to grow up pretty fast because he still doesn't know about his dad. And they clearly lost their mom. And
well, let's talk about the dad actually. What did you think of that character?
King Harrow. I thought that he was good in that he felt like a king. Like you saw him have these different moods where he's like very kind and yet strict, a little like goofy at times when he's with the kids, and then being kind of mean too.
I think that I thought he was a little bit clunky because of how much they wanted to get done before he died. I think, but I don't think it was bad. I do agree with you that there were multiple facets. I think the performance was good. But it's like we have to quickly get in. Oh, he's made mistakes and he's gonna be angry, and I don't know. The other thing is that I felt like there was just generally a bit of weirdness at the beginning where they were just like so like he's gonna die no matter what. Like
that was a weird. Like there's nothing we can do.
It's like, geez, how are you possibly winning this war if 5 elves can come in and kill you?
I know.
I do think generally he was okay.
He was okay.
But why don't we in some ways use him as a springboard to talk about Viren, who I think we were really happy with at the beginning, and then he quickly went downhill.
At first, we were very excited by the fact of like, oh, he seems like he's going to be such a bad guy, like gunning for power. But look, he's supportive of the king. And never mind, he's gunning for power.
I mean, this is the thing. Is so like, the fact that we got to a point where he really did seem like he cared about the king, that they were brothers, that he had dimension to him as a person, that he did, he came up with this dark magic idea, but it was like an intelligent idea.
And the king supported it, which makes the king...
Oh, I'm talking about the snake thing.
Okay.
And then the fact that he was going to sacrifice himself for the king. I thought that was all fantastic. And I like the fact that he was going to do that, and then the king is the one who like cemented him as a villain. I like that. I think that's great. I just think that the problem is that it's like a light switch where it's like, okay, after that moment, he's just pure, super like comic book villain.
And it's clear he was doing shady stuff before that. But it was all in the service of, it felt in the service of his kingdom, truly. Whereas now it's like, no, it's in the service of yourself.
Well, and the thing is, I think the idea that, especially from what Harrow says to him, is he had pride, he had narcissism building up, but he wasn't one-dimensional, whereas after this point, he's pretty dang one-dimensional.
Especially by the end where he became physically monstrous and looked like an embodiment of evil. So it's like, oh, okay, well, there we go.
The thing is, I understand why you'd want to end the 9 episodes with that, to be like, ominous threat, but at the same time, it did feel a little bit rushed. And I do like that how he it was very intense and creepy what he did to the head of the elf assassins. But it did feel a little rushed, and I just want him to have some complexity.
Right.
And the fact that he has the 2 children, I think, can add something if they let that. So let's talk a little bit about them.
Let's talk about Soren and Claudia.
Yeah.
So Soren seems to be like the head of the guard, and Claudia is her father's, apprentice as mage, and knows a lot of spells, seemingly. Also, just like she uses them more freely, in my opinion, than her father does.
And she has fun with the dark magic.
She has joy.
Yeah.
That's the thing where I'm like, oh, she's not bad. She just uses dark magic because she's so nice and funny and goofy and blah blah blah.
Generally, if they found a way to make dark magic not just pure evil, no one should ever do this, I think that would be great. If ultimately the magic community, the elves and dragons and everything, was able to accept that there are positive uses for it, I think that would be really cool and very different, and something that most, especially kids shows, wouldn't do.
Right. They do set it up as dark magic uses the life force of, these magical creatures. So it kind of feels inherently destructive. Yeah. But I don't really understand it. I feel like they could go and flesh it out and point it in a slightly different direction.
And at least show that there's nuance, I guess, because the thing is, I don't think Claudia is pure evil at all.
but when she's using elemental spells of the other, the other types of, not elements, but...
Sky, earth, all that jazz.
Well, the point is when she does that, that's not her dark magic. That is her embodying those other things. Yeah. But then she does these dark spells and her eyes go black. That is the dark magic, and that looks scary.
So maybe her general arc is to become a general magic user.
Right. The question is, / the interesting point, again, tying to Avatar, is she
Zuko?
Is she Zuko? Is Soren Zuko? Are they both Zuko?
My assumption is that one is and one isn't.
That's how I feel too.
That's my assumption.
Meaning turning against your father and going down the correct moral.
Yeah, and I think, I could see them, I think the smart thing to do would be to play with our expectations, be like, oh, it almost seems like Soren's gonna be the bad guy, but maybe he's actually the good guy, and Claudia, in some ways there are two. Okay, so there's a shipping aspect to this too. You can't escape from television, right? So the fact
I don't think they want us to.
The fact that they set up Claudia and Callum as potential romantic partners.
Callum having a crush on her specifically.
And clearly there's going to be something with Rayla and Callum, I would assume. They are different races, so maybe they don't want to go down that path. But I think we can assume that. And if it doesn't...
Races isn't species.
But So making her the Zuko could be interesting in a relationship way, because it's now they're all together all the time, and it's caught in the middle, love triangle thing.
Right.
But the opposite of her being the one who stays with the dad and becomes fully evil, that also creates a greater tension that he cared about her and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I could see it going either way. I do think that she, we talked a little about the humor with her and how it was a little iffy. I think the thing that's interesting about her is that a lot of her dialogue and maybe a little bit of the performance was very awkward.
Right.
But it kind of felt okay, because it was well, this is making her a character.
Right. She is awkward. She is weirdly that's the thing, where she is an awkward person. Yeah. But she's so powerful and smart and capable, so it's just kind of
she's she's confidently awkward, which is not a normal thing.
Right. She's just not much self-awareness, I guess. Yeah. So we were talking, A, I like that, and B, I want to talk about Soren a little bit more and how they play off of each other. So Soren is clearly oh, I have all this swagger, he's confident, he's arrogant and cocky. Yeah. He's a jerk.
and a bit of a doof.
Yeah.
Yeah. They play up his bro-ishness in the middle episodes and stuff. I was disappointed with him as the episodes went on. I thought in the first few episodes they did a really nice job where he seemed like a big brother to Callum, and like you said, a little bit douchey but capable, and then they pretty quickly made him sort of
the butt.
Yeah, the butt of the joke. And like the fact that like he failed in his duty and his king was killed, and then he's just like being a goofball the next episode.
He's just like stretching and doing legwork and whatever, and then kind of playing. Like, I don't really feel when his father tells him, sends him on this mission of finding the princes, and you know, what if they're not found? Wink, wink. Like, make that happen.
Yeah.
I feel like it should weigh more heavily on him.
They definitely want you to think that it's weighing on him, but he was just such a doof in that scene that it's hard to like let it sink. And then when you see it in contrast with Claudia, who I think they do a much better job with, I think that he honestly is the one that I want the most work done on.
He needs the most work to give him that complexity that I know that they're trying to set up, but it's just not really translating.
Well, and that's part of why I almost think that he will be the one that is the Zuko.
Right. I agree. Where they are making us think that it'll be Claudia, but it might be Soren.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's why I'm not ready to give up that it will actually be both of them, just in slightly more tense ways. Yeah. Also, someone can be not quite, the translation doesn't join their little group, but goes off and realize that, well, what my father is trying to tell me isn't right either.
Yeah.
And I think Claudia is more likely to do that than Soren.
Yeah. I think it also in general would be interesting if they both joined, but then one of them like backpedals. Right. You know, like that could be cool too.
Right.
Who else do we want? We should talk about General Amaya.
Yes. So she's both of their aunts because she's their mom's sister.
Yeah.
So
a phenomenal character that I can't wait to see more of.
So unique.
Yeah. I mean, people complain when like there's diversity for diversity's sake, and this is the kind of thing where it's the argument against that, where it's like diversity can create a character and I think that you've never seen before that feels like just gives a dimension to someone who could just be a bland character. You know,
can just be a blustery general who thinks she knows best and actually does know best, but is tricked. Yeah. And it's this thing of, well, they set up the fact that she's the most important person at the Reach, that they need her to show up, and they show her, you know, caring for these kids, mourning for her sister, mourning for her brother-in-law, and fearing for her kingdom. Yep. And she's just so complex. And then also there's this added dimension of, hey, she's deaf. Yeah. And how awesome must it be if you're a kid who either has who is themselves hearing impaired or has a hearing impaired sibling or parent, that you're seeing this like incredible character speaking to you. Yeah. Yes, she has an interpreter, but it's a language that these kids and people have access to. And they don't subtitle everything that she says. Yeah,
which I like that too.
And I like that. And I feel left out. But I'm like, you know what? It's good to feel a little uncomfortable with this. Yeah. And I really appreciate it. And I think that's such an interesting choice. Again, Avatar, Toph.
Exactly.
And I don't think it's this like, well, she's the Toph. We need to throw in, you know.
If anything, I would say Ellis is the Toph, it seems like. But we'll get back to that.
Alice is the Toph. Yeah, I could see that.
She's the one who comes in later.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. But I just mean that seeing Amaya and seeing how her story and what she's going to do and how she will tie back into it, given she leaves her, you know, interpreter.
Yeah, Gren.
Yeah. He's cute.
Well, I will say, so it's interesting because as someone who, you know, has hearing, it's interesting because he and her like merge into one character for me, right? Where it's like her humor is portrayed through him. So it's like, I love the thing about breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and like the sternness of that. Yeah. And it's like, but then he ends up separated. And so it's like this character who's this voice that I associated with her and her strength and intelligence. Right. Then goes into this wacky, like silly guy.
Right. It does.
Yeah. Which I kind of like that.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that because then again, I think it's a good thing to separate them because then she will have more opportunity of being her own person and dealing with her own choices.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome.
Yes.
So let's just maybe end by talking about Alice and Ava.
Right.
So
Wolf Girl and Wolf.
Wolf Girl and Wolf. Another, again, interesting sort of representational thing of the three-legged wolf, and sort of talking about how society sees them and all that stuff I thought was interesting. Do you think Alice is sticking around, or do you think this was for the mini arc?
I think that she'll stick around, but she won't necessarily complete the journey with them. Like, I think that she might be there for a few episodes in season 2 if they're so that's the other thing. We keep talking about the future. I'm like, well, it's not confirmed yet. I hope
so that's my thing is I don't know also, so they have book 1 and obviously there are 6 elements or whatever it's called.
Right.
And so the question is this part 1 of book 1 or is this the end of book 1?
I would be
And so my question, so like it's hard to tell like how big of a deal something like Ellis is, because is she just gonna be, I forget what part of Avatar it is, where suddenly they need an army, right? And they bring back all the filler episode people come back and it's like, hey, we're gonna all join together. So does she leave at the end of this and then later on she reappears and helps them,
they call on her again. Yeah, I really don't know, but I feel like she'll be somewhat like coming in and out of it. Like she'll disappear and then maybe come back and something big, or while she's gone something big happens and she comes in as a slightly different character, like having grown.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. It would be interesting with that. As for your kind of like, this is book 1.
Yeah.
I hope that this is not, I hope that the next thing we see isn't like book 2, new thing. Yeah. I kind of feel like this is still part 1.
Yeah, I could see, I mean, that's the thing. I think if we had 9 episode seasons, 6 books, that's 54 episodes. You could do that and that would be okay.
That's true.
I would like to have more because I honestly think, so there's the thing is like, I think Avatar is one of those shows that benefited from filler episodes. I think the fact that we were able to just soak in these characters and their journey, right? And then pick up these side characters that made the world feel lived in, and then they came back, which made them feel important. I think that really helped the journey feel strong. And something like that, the episode by the river of this show where the water is like, in some ways you could think of that in a lot of ways as a filler episode, but I think it was like one of the better episodes.
I agree.
So like I would totally be happy if they were able to have maybe 18 episode books. That would be great. It's hard to plan for that stuff though, because you don't know how well things are doing.
9 and 7, 9 is not enough.
Yeah.
That's what I just that's just what I come down to is, for as good as I think they did with 9 episodes, if each book, each season is only 9 or 10 with a half-hour show like this, I just want more of this world. I just do.
I mean, it's awesome that they left us wanting more, like, intensely. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, if this is it's just hard to handle as a season, to be like, because I will say, if this is supposed to be, if I was critiquing this as a season of television, I would say there isn't much of an arc for most of the characters. Yeah. It's just setting them up. It's a setup. Yeah. And it's amazing setup, and I'm excited about it. But it's just scratching the surface.
Yeah. But what a scratch. Here's a question that I have. How is it for people who haven't seen Avatar? How many people are watching it who haven't seen those shows? Are they willing to give it a try?
Well, also the question is how many older people are watching it having not seen Avatar? Because I'm sure like a kid, it's like, oh, it looks cool, check it out, whatever. Right. I assume most older fans are either people who watched Avatar or are now hearing positive buzz.
I really hope that people are tuning in.
Yeah.
And I hope that parents are watching the show with their kids too, because I think it's a really rare, special thing for a show where adults can watch it and get as much out of it as their kids. And I know I was like a preteen when Avatar came out, like kid preteen age. And that was a show that I watched with my mom, and we didn't really watch a lot of kids shows together because she thought they were stupid, and I don't blame her. But that's something where we really both fell in love with the world, and we could bond over it, and we just kind of understood it together. And I feel like this can be bringing that to families
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments below. What are you excited about going forward? What do you think worked? What do you think didn't work? And we'll see you next time.
Bye.